going to be talking about section 1.3, which is how we organize categorical data. So when we do this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a two-way table. And what that's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to organize data that shows how many times each combination of categories occurs. So in this case, we have category of gender, so boy or girl. And we also have the category of desserts. We have cake, pie, and ice cream, so two variables. And then we have frequency. So what frequency is it's the number of times a value is observed in a data set. So something to be aware of is that this is the number of times something is observed. If we're looking at the percentage something is observed, we usually call that relative frequency. So let's just make a note, relative frequency is a percentage. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to be answering these questions. So first off, if we look at this two-way table, what is the frequency of girls that ate cake? So if we look at this, the frequency of girls that ate cake would be 9. Now, when it says what is the proportion of girls that ate cake, well, proportion means a percent or a fraction. So when it says what proportion of girls ate cake, well, let's say we have 9, 6, and 3, which means we're going to have 18 girls total, and 9 out of those 18 ate cake, which means we have a proportion of 0.5, which is 50%. Now, if we're using this two-way table to discuss how many girls are our total, well, we're going to have 9 girls that ate cake, 6 that ate pie, and 3 that ate ice cream, so we're going to have 18 girls total. So that'd be 18. So we're going to look at the total of that row. How many boys are there total? Well, there's 3 plus 5 plus 2, so we had 10 boys total. And then if we want to look at the total of people that ate cake, we're going to have 3 plus 9, so we're going to have 12 cake eaters total. For pie, we would have 11. And just for fun, for ice cream, we would have 5. So 12 and then 11. Great. Now when it asks us what percentage of the sample, so that means that we're going to be looking at the total amount of people that we had. So we had 10 boys, 18 girls, so we had 28 people total. If we're looking at the percentage of the sample that was boys, well, that's going to be 10 out of the 28 that we had total. So if we wanted to put this into a percentage, we would put that into a decimal first, which would be about 0.357, which would be 35.7%. For girls, we had 18 girls out of the 28 total that we observed. So if we did 18 divided by 28 and turn that into a decimal, that would be 0.643, which when you're turning a decimal into a percentage, you're going to move the decimal place 2 over, so that would be 64.3%. Now for the amount of cake eaters, we're going to have 12 out of 28, so we had 12 cake eaters out of the 28 people that we saw total. So 12 out of 28 would give us 0.429, which in percentage is 42.9%. Okay, great. Now let's go look at the other question. So we want to know who is more likely to eat pie. So are boys more likely to eat pie or girls? So when we're looking at this question, there's something that we have to be aware of, and this is what that is. We can't just look at the amount of boys that ate pie and compare it to the amount of girls that ate pie. The reason we can't do that is because there are more girls overall than boys. So of course we might see more girls eating pie, or more girls eating pie because there's just more girls at the party. So to answer a question like this, we need to look at the percentages of those that ate pie versus those that ate, we have to look at the percentage of boys that ate pie versus the percentage of girls that ate pie. So for the boys, we had 5 out of 10, which is 50%. And for girls, we had 6 out of 18, which is 33.3%. So what that means is even though we had more girls eating pie than boys, a higher percentage of boys ate pie than girls. All right. Now for this next one, suppose we are at a wedding and it has 130 guests and we ask them if they ate pie or cake. Okay, so whenever I set these up, I always say that I had 130%, or I'm sorry, I had 130 guests total, which would be equal to 100%. Okay. Now, suppose 70% of the guests say that they ate pie. So out of 100%, we had 70% who said that they ate pie. How many guests is this? So out of 130, x would be how many guests this is. Now, to solve this, what I always like to do, and you don't have to do it this way, it's whatever tickles your fancy, is I always like to do cross multiplication. So when you do this cross multiplication, you're going to take 100 times x equals 130 times 70, which is going to give you, let's see, whoops, that's not right. 130 times 70 will give us 9100. And then divide both sides by 100. And we get that x equals 91. So we had 91 guests that said that they ate pie. Now let's do the same thing here. So at a different wedding, so now we're looking at a different wedding, we had 40% of people stated that they ate cake. So that's 40%. And that was 86 guests, so 40% equals 86. And we want to know how many guests were there. So 40% is always going to be out of 100%. Now 86 is out of, well, how many guests total? So now we have x on the bottom. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to cross multiply, make our lives a little bit easier. So that would be 8600 equals 40x. And then to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 40. Okay, so we are going to get that x equals, so let's see, 8600 divided by 40. So that's going to give us that we had 215 guests total. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you guys, was how to handle percentages and also how to read a frequency table. Now we're ready to move on to section 1.4.